My name's Juliana, and where do I begin? My husband Craig and I decided to move our lives and our son to the island of Sardinia in Italy, my father's homeland. Join us on our new journey as I share my culture, heritage, and passion for all things Simply Sardinian. Welcome to a new episode of the Simply Sardinian series. It is the 1st of November and it is an absolutely beautiful day, lovely and warm, and we're at one of our favourite places here in Sardinia, which is San Giovanni. Now, we had a bit of a discussion this week about what sort of video we were going to put out. And we've actually received quite a number of messages and emails and comments on previous videos that when we both sat down and actually had a look, there was so many questions from so many people from so many different places asking us basically what it was like to live in Sardinia. Had we found the transition difficult? And so we have decided to make a list of the pros and cons and give you a very honest first-hand account of what we have experienced moving to this beautiful paradise. So we just had so many questions coming through, and when we actually collated them, all of them had a very common theme. Why Sardinia? Why Italy? And how difficult was it? So I think number one on the list of pros was stunning beaches. It is the 1st of November. It is a very balmy 22, 23 degrees. We have come down here today and there's actually people in the water having a swim, lying on the beach. Granted, I do believe that they are tourists. I don't believe that they are locals, but I've just paddled in the water and I definitely wish that I'd brought my swimming costume today because I would definitely be in there. I think the water temperature is still around 21, 22 degrees. And yeah, what can I say? We are in winter now officially, and yet we are still walking about in short sleeve tops. It is still warm and you can still have a paddle at the beach if you want to.
Like a guy who could treat me right. Boy, take a chance, will you let me ride?
So I think one of the biggest pros that really stood out for us, obviously coming from living on the Gold Coast in Australia for just under 24 years and previously coming from the UK, we were really searching for a climate that would be more or less what we had just left. I think growing up in the UK, for me anyway, winter really seems to set in quite early, especially up in Scotland. Where Craig's from in the south of England, they do have better weather than us up north. So those long winters, dark, damp, wet, you don't get a lot of outside time. for me, going back, really, it affects your mental health, or it sort of affected my mental health anyway. And I think after being in Australia, especially Queensland, and waking up to, 360 odd days of blue sky and sunshine, it did really become quite an important factor for us when we were looking at moving and where we could move to. One of the cons that I have is January and February seem to be a little bit isolating on the island due to it being winter, shorter days. The climate's just a little bit damp and wet and cold. There's less tourists around. All the festivals are finished, and yeah, for me it just feels a little bit lonelier January and February. I think another pro for us living on the island is obviously Sardinia is very famous for their beaches and summer and the whole beach lifestyle here and going to the seaside. But it's not really true. Yes, they are very famous for the beaches, especially with the whole social media and TikTok and what have you. But we've actually got some really beautiful, rugged landscapes all over the island. We have forests, we have the mountains, we have the lakes, and of course, beautiful beaches. You can't really say that this isn't stunning. But I just think Sardinia is a lot richer than what people actually realize, and that is definitely a huge pro for us. So obviously in summertime you do head towards the coast and spend time at the beaches, and we're very, very lucky. But of course people think, well, what do you do in winter? What do you do in autumn when it's cooler and when you can't go to the beach and have your picnics and whatever? I think the island is very unique in not only does it follow the seasons, but people follow the seasons around the island itself. So in autumn and winter, we tend to head more inland towards the mountains, towards the forest, to those smaller villages where they really celebrate their diversity and what makes them different from the coastal towns. And that is their traditions, the food, and obviously their culture is just a little bit different, and it's just very celebrated, and it's a beautiful place to go and visit in winter and in autumn. Is more the inland parts of the islands. Right, so moving to Sardinia, there has been a lot of pros. So let's discuss the cons that maybe you've.
Well, I think okay, the biggest cons. The biggest cons moving to Italy,
Yeah,
and Sardinia in particular, I think is definitely cultural adjustment. It can be a bit of an assault on the senses when you first come over here. The language barrier,
yeah,
that is probably the biggest thing. I would say you have to learn the language even before you come here. Some sort of basic knowledge, even if it's just greetings, ordering something in a restaurant, meeting people in the street, just a real basic Italian. You need to get some of that under your belt, because if you don't, it is a bit of a struggle. Even trying to meet friends, and when you're in social situations where it was quite difficult, where we'd been in a lot of social situations where you speak Italian fluently and there'd be a conversation going around, and
fluentish.
and I'm sitting there going and have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on. It's no longer like that for me. I understand it quite well. I still have some difficulty speaking Italian. The grammar for me is awful.
But do you ever feel left out?
No.
Like getting back to the language, even if you are speaking Italian and grammatically it's not perfect, but you are trying and you are following the conversation.
No, that
Do
one
you
thing I would
ever-
say, you know what? They are extremely helpful. Sardinians,
So
I
it's
don't know
still
about
very
mainland,
inclusive.
they are, if you get it wrong or you get the tense wrong, nobody's going to sit there and go, they actually help you along.
Yeah.
You know, and I think once they get to know you a bit better, they'll be like, Craig, that was terrible. Try it like this, you know,
Yeah.
or say it like this, or this is another way to say it. But
Yeah.
no, that's one thing I would say. They are extremely helpful and extremely pleased that you're trying
Yeah.
to learn their
Yeah.
language, and they encourage it,
Yeah.
which is really good. I think the other big con here is employment. I think if you're deciding that you're going to move to Italy, Sardinia in particular, uh, employment here is quite difficult. It's very seasonal. It's all done with tourism, unless you're a farmer and you're going to buy, you know, huge blocks of land and do farming. Yeah, tourism is the main industry here, and I think for me, I'm quite lucky. I work all over Europe, so I'm not always working in Sardinia. But for Juliana, after leaving nursing, we've done the Sardinian holiday homes, and that's given us an opportunity to make our own employment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's probably easier on mainland Italy, but I can only speak for our experiences here in Sardinia. It is quite tricky, you know, even for locals to find employment.
Yeah.
It is very, very tricky. So that's something that, you know, if you can work from home or you're a digital nomad or whatever
Yeah.
it is, you can that'll probably work out well for you.
Yeah.
And there's certain visas
And I
for
think
that.
the other thing is don't expect wages that you have had.
No, here's they
but
pay.
it is all
It's
swings
different.
and roundabouts because your cost of living, I feel, is, well, compared to what we were in Australia, is a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing you
Lower.
can talk about. You know, cost of living here for me is a pro, considering how the cost of living in Australia is quite high. We're fortunate enough where we own our homes here, so I suppose the biggest expense you find in Australia, UK, America is your mortgage or your rent
Yeah.
or whatever.
Health insurance and all the other
You
expenses
know,
and
property can
costs.
be quite affordable here on the island, depending on where you go. There is a flip side as a con to that. I mean, if you decided that you were going to move to the north of Sardinia, to Costa Smeralda, you know, the multi-million-dollar properties,
Well,
food is
how much are they?
expensive,
Like
super.
25,
You can spend.
30
I've seen one for
million
50 million
euros?
euros.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you have to really do your homework and decide where you are going to stay and base yourself. But for us here, we're sort of in the middle of the island on the west coast.
Can I just say, I think we are in the most perfect spot in Sardinia because, yeah, we have the tourism, but we don't have it all year round. We are an hour and 20 to Alghero, an hour to Cagliari. We are literally.
We have a good train
Yeah,
station that takes us to
we
the
are
airport,
really,
and
you
yeah,
know,
we're quite lucky.
lucky where we are. And I think that whole central belt of Sardinia is
I think that
perfect.
comes back to, like, okay, being an immigrant and not Italian and from Italy or Sardinia. You've got to do your homework. You've got to decide where, you know, have you got children? Are they young? Because education's quite good. The schools are actually quite good. But if you decided that you wanted your children to go to an international school, you know, and you decided but you wanted a life in the mountains, it's
Yeah.
just not going to work out
No.
for you. You know, you would need to go live in Cagliari or Sassari or one of the bigger cities.
There's another international school that I think is opening next year, but I think that is more like Olbia, Sassari, like the top of the island. But yeah, you're right. If you are coming over here with kids, there are international schools that will just deliver education purely in English.
It
but I
is
think only
possible
up
to do
until
it,
middle
but
school.
you've got to, again, you've got to balance what you want and where you're going to be, you know, because it won't always work out. Yeah,
we
if you
didn't
want,
have those
no, we didn't.
considerations.
But I'm
so we
thinking
were
other
lucky.
people watching this video that may be thinking of moving here with young children, not just from you know, English speaking countries, even from, you know, say Germany or France or wherever. Maybe they, you know, they would want an international school, or that would be something that they would seek. That there's no good for them moving to Nuoro or somewhere like that in the middle of the island where perhaps they don't have those facilities. I think the other big thing here is healthcare. We have private medical insurance that we took out. We're also able to go to the UK if we needed healthcare. healthcare on the island is actually really good, but it is struggling. I think a lot of the villages struggle to find GPs.
Yeah, it's
That
struggling
was a
to be
problem.
able to access healthcare, but once you're in the bowels of it, if you like,
If you're in the system,
once you're in the system and you can tap into that system, I do believe it is quite a high standard of healthcare. We had to visit the GP a couple of weeks ago, and before we left, after a 40-minute consultation with a GP for the first time, I said, okay, where do I pay? Because in Australia, we always pay even just to go and see the GP. And she said, oh no, you're in Italy now. You don't pay. So that for us was a bit like, oh my God. We also had to go and get some prescriptions, and it cost us €2 for the prescriptions, which was another, oh my God. Like,
but in the same token, if you had a serious ailment,
yeah,
you would probably go to mainland Italy. There is a
100%.
private hospital here, a
there
Mater
is.
hospital.
There's a Mater hospital in Olbia, although I'm not too familiar with it. We have the Mater hospitals in Australia, and I'm sure they're elsewhere. But it comes back to the same as everywhere else. Healthcare after COVID, no matter where you live in the world, has become more difficult to try and access, and that is just fact. I don't think we are immune from that.
No.
It has taken us a while to be able to find a GP here. We have found one. She seems really great.
But she didn't speak English.
She didn't speak
English.
So
if I didn't have Juliana there, and I didn't know any Italian, I think if I'd have met her and I was here myself the first time round, it would have been quite tricky. So again, it goes back to have to start learning some Italian. Google Translate is a fantastic tool, by the way.
But I think it is like with everything else, you have to be prepared. So before you went for that visit, we had all the paperwork, even if it's in English, it doesn't matter, because you know what? Everyone has Google Translate, is just going into anything prepared. And even if that means that you have to translate a document or whatever it is, go in and be prepared. But I don't think it is impossible. If this is something that you really want to do,
that's it.
It is just about,
it's definitely, everything's possible. But there's realistic cons there that people need to be prepared and aware of. Another big one is public transport. I mean, if you don't drive a car, I don't know. So we're only talking about our experiences here in Sardinia. On the mainland, maybe public transport. I know trains are really quite good on the mainland of Italy. I use them all the time. However, here we have a good rail network from where we are, but it's getting to that train station. If we didn't have a car, it could be quite tricky. We had a teenagers, kids, when we used to come on holiday here. There's no possible way for them to get a taxi out of the town to go to maybe a nightclub or a bar.
Taxis. I just don't think they are as available as what we
there's taxis here from the airport. But if you wanted to get a taxi from town and go into the city, it would be difficult.
You would have to book it in advance, and our taxi companies.
Yeah, you can't flag a taxi down.
Yeah, no, and you know what? We are used to having the choice of, do we get a taxi or do we get an Uber? And we've been very fortunate in that way. But obviously, when you come to somewhere like here, it's almost alien that you don't have Uber. What do you mean you don't have Uber? Or what do you mean you don't have taxis? They do exist, but you just have to
so you definitely
forward plan. You can't just
need to drive.
I think and go, we'll get a cab back
you need
home.
to drive, definitely. If you're in Sardinia, you need a car.
But
100%
the
you need a
buses
car.
are good and the trains are good, providing you are close to a train station.
Exactly. So you need to. You definitely need to drive.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
If we didn't have a car, or we couldn't drive, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
Even to go to the beach, you need a car.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So
I agree.
I think those are the biggest cons that I can think of. I think overall.
And do you know what? In the whole scheme of things, they're not like they're cons, but they're not like anything that's going to hold you back.
The employment one would be the biggest one that held people back. Languages, people can learn language, and it's part of the journey and the adventure. I'm still learning, you know. It's still
I'm
it's
still
something.
learning.
It's part, like I say, it's part of the adventure of moving here. I think your biggest concern for Italy um, is employment.
Yeah,
If you can find a way to make a living, then you've got it cracked. Everything else you can learn, everything
yeah.
else you can overcome. They're just sort of little bumps in the road, and they're very, you know, you can overcome them. But yeah, that employment, if you can't earn, then that's going to be the biggest thing that holds you back, I would say.
Yeah.
That's Craig's advice for moving to Italy. Become a millionaire before you arrive, or find some good work.
Hopefully, we have covered some of the questions that you've been asking all the way through the series. I think we're at episode 62 or 63, so we've been going for a little while. And as always, we're really, really thankful and grateful to still be making these beautiful videos and having the support of a great community. If you haven't subscribed and you like our videos and like what we've got to show you each week, please do subscribe. It does go a long way in helping us continue on with the videos. And yeah, I hope that I've answered some of your questions that you've sent in. We will probably do a part 2 because there's just so much more that we can cover. This is a very honest opinion of our first-hand experience of making the transition from Australia to Sardinia. There have been a few cons, a few negatives, but nothing that we haven't been able to overcome or find a solution to. And it really hasn't stopped us from having a really good time and just, yeah, still enjoying the journey, and long may it continue here. So if you think Italy, or in particular Sardinia, is a place that you would like to visit, whether it's for a holiday or yeah, just take time out like us and have a completely different experience, and you do have some questions, you can drop us a comment in the videos, or you can always email us at simplysardinian@gmail.com. I always do try and get back to everyone that does email. And yeah, so that is the end of this week's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again next week.